trim that first part out later on. Today we're going to be working through pretty much all the lower body stretches. No foam rolling today, and if you want foam rolling, please leave it in the comments because I don't really know what you want. I'm just kind of doing what I would do. And yesterday I had a pretty big leg day at the gym, a lot of squats and lunges and glute bridges and stuff, and then I took a really long walk. So my lower body is kind of feeling it. I've already done my foam rolling today. Again, if you want me to do more foam rolling videos, I can definitely do that, no problem. But we're just going to kind of do a combo upper and lower body today and get through all the lower body stretches, all the big ones, all the major ones that we do problem solving with, and maybe a couple extra. So I'll try to clue you in as far as like what stretches pair with other stretches when you're doing problem solving. It can get complicated, but it doesn't have to be. So anyway, let's come to the mat and we'll start this thing over again. All right, first of all, we're just going to sit. And if you are not comfortable sitting, grab yourself some blankets, grab yourself a stack of blankets, and so sit up high enough so that your knees aren't like this, because that's going to cause your lower back to round. And we want to sit up straight. So just go ahead and take your head over to the right. Let it fall. Roll around to the front. Around toward the left. And back up again. And then take it back the other way. And as I said, I'm just kind of doing what I feel today. I feel like I have a lot of tightness in my traps, especially in my left trap. So we're going to do the Ki-Hara resistance stretching for traps. There are some that you can do with bands and stuff, but I'm not going to get into that today. Hopefully my microphone will stay out of the way when I'm doing this one. So the motion is you're going to take your left arm up. You're going to push back with your hand. And your other arm, so your other arm is just going to take this arm and drag it down across the body. So we're going to take it all the way across. This arm is still pushing back. The other arm is dragging it along. I'm going to pull my fingers out away from me to create some traction, and then I'm going to tilt my head over to the right. I know I'm crossing right over this microphone, so sorry about that. I'll try to move it to the center. That should help a little bit. I think I'm still going to be crossing it, but so I'm taking my arm up like that, and I'm pulling it across. My arm is going back. I'm using the other arm to kind of pull it across the body. I'm giving traction, so I'm pulling the arm out and away from myself, and then I'm going to tilt my head over to the right. So we'll do that a couple more times, and you should be feeling a stretch right up here in your trap. If you have tight traps, it's good to resistance stretch them first. Usually that means your pec minor and your pecs and your anterior delt are going to be tight too. So yeah, going after those muscles is great, but stretching out the ones in the back are almost as important, because we think of it as a Chinese fan. So if we've got a bunch of knots in our Chinese fan, you know, you open them up, little case, put a bunch of knots in it, and you try to close it. So by closing it, I mean the muscles got to kind of contract so that the front part of the shoulder can stretch. If you've got a bunch of knots in there, it's sometimes all you feel is your traps just keep tightening up in big knots. So that's why we're doing this. So now the other arm up, we're going to pull it across the body with the first arm. If any of this hurts, please stop doing it. I have a shoulder injury right now, so I'm kind of feeling it out myself. I'm feeling like this is a good stretch for my shoulder, but if you're feeling like anything painful, I would stop doing it. So as you get down to the bottom, you're going to tilt your head up to the left. I really don't do this stretch a lot myself. I tend to just try to work this muscle in the gym, doing Y flies, reverse fly. Um, you could just, do this with bands or weights. And then I'm also going to do lateral to get into this tension on the side of the neck. So for this one, I don't teach this one very often, but it's a good one if you have a lot of tension inside of your neck. So you're going to take your arm up like this. This is the movement, like lateral raise at the gym. So I'm going up, and then my other arm is going to push it down. So the arm that I've got out to the side is resisting it. It's pushing up, but the other arm is going to win. And I'm going to keep the tension going. I'm going to traction my elbow away from me and tilt my head over to the right. Again, up, head over to the right. And you should feel a nice big stretch through here. We'll just do like 4 or 5 of these. All right, on the other side. So if you're not feeling anything, imagine tractioning the elbow away from you and see what that gets you. So I'm going up, I'm pushing it down with the other arm, and at the end, I'm going to tilt my head over to the left and kind of depress the shoulder a little bit. And once you get the hang of this, like if you belong to the gym or something, I don't think I have at the gym I'm at right now, I don't have a lateral raise machine, but what I used to do at my old gym, we had a lateral raise machine, and I would use it just to stretch my neck. So I would lift, and then as I would lower down, I traction my elbows out away from me and tilt my head to the side, and then do the other, and just kind of go back and forth. And it's just a super nice stretch. It really is. All right, and then next we're going to do groin. So bring the soles of your feet together. I think we did this one last week. You're going to bring the knees together, and the arms are going to push apart. So the arms are going out, the knees are pulling in. You're going to let your legs win as you bring the knees together. Keep pulling the knees together. Now let your arms win and open up. This almost is like a reverse fly. In a way, it's a low reverse fly. But think about it as another trap stretch for your upper traps. As you bring your knees together, you should feel this trap stretching a bit, and rhomboids too. Some of you may just be focusing on the stretch, the lower body stretch, if you're tight here, and that's cool. I can really feel the back of my shoulders working a lot here, which is kind of the beauty of doing lower body, is that you're also stretching your upper body at the same time, which is great. Okay. And from here, we're going to go into the reverse tabletop stretch. So take your hands behind you, either fingertips pointing forward or out to the side. You can do it back here, but my elbows tend to hyperextend. And in that position, I feel really unstable. So I like to have my fingertips pointed forward, but wherever you want to be. So puff your chest out. This is as far as you need to go. You could just stop, puff, or lift your hips. So this is your stretch. And then as you come down, kind of imagine your feet and your hands pulling towards each other. You can do that on the way up as well. This feels so good. I don't want to stop doing it. So again, as I said, you should get more out of it if you feel like your feet and your hands are pulling towards each other. So if you're wanting more of a stretch, try that, and you can also tip forward if you're wanting more anterior shoulder stretch. Okay, so we did groin. Now we're going to do lateral hamstring. And there are a number of ways that you can do lateral hamstring, but I feel like the one that's the most effective for me is doing it lying down. And I'm going to give you two versions of this. So you can do it with the strap around your foot. I'll show you that one first, and then I'll show you the one that's a little bit more difficult, but in my opinion, the best stretch for. So the lateral line is going to go right down here all the way through lateral hamstring, and then you're going to hit the glutes a little bit as well. So also it crosses over to the other shoulder. So if you have shoulder problems on one side or the other, it may be related to lateral line. I don't know. You'll have to feel it out. So I'm going to put this strap around my foot. I've got this knee bent. And I'm going to kick down and out. So I'm not going straight down. I'm going down and I'm going out like this. And I'm going to keep pushing down with my foot and then pull my leg across the body to the other side. And as I get across the body, this first one, I'm not going to do anything with my bent knee yet because I'm still a little tight. So we're going down and then across. Whew, that's a good stretch. Down and then across. Maybe I'm just really tight today. So as you feel like you're starting to warm up into this stretch, you can start to, as you bring it across, you can start to tilt the other knee in. And that is going to, and it's going to be a little bit deeper stretch. Because now you've got internal rotation on both sides. And also try it. I'm going to go on to the more difficult one. Try it also with your foot out, with your toe out to the side, and see if you feel any difference. For me right now, I'm feeling it actually more in my hamstring and less in the lateral line through my glute. But you might feel something completely different. So if that's what you're up for doing today, then just keep doing that. For the rest of you that want a little deeper stretch, we're going to go into this one. So I'm hooking my hand around the outside of my foot. I'm going to kick my foot down toward the outside of my hip. That's the direction it's going. And then as I do that, I'm going to keep that foot kicking down. I'm going to pull it across the body, across to my right side, and then tilt that right knee in. And I'm just going to keep moving in and out of that. And that should give you a really nice stretch all the way from your calf down to your hip. If my calves and my hamstrings are really, really tight, this is the way I prefer to do it because I feel like there's a little bit more muscle tension in there. Like my muscles are getting warmer than doing it with the straight leg stretch. But both of them work. So I wouldn't worry about it. I'm also feeling my hip flexor in the front jamming up a little bit, which means I probably should have stretched my hip flexor first. Those kind of things you'll just learn as you're going along. This particular stretch goes with the groin stretch that we just did. So usually, if you feel bunching, it's going to be here. And if it's really driving you crazy, then go back and do the groin stretch again, and then come back to this, and you should feel a little bit of tension release. It shouldn't be jamming up as much. All right, we're going to do the other leg. So I've got this one on the strap. I'm going to start with the strap. Oh my gosh, I'm super tight. I can already feel a stretch right here. So I'm going to kick down and out. Sometimes I tell people to imagine like they're hockey players. You know how hockey players skate and they kind of push their foot out to the side. So that's what we want. So I'm going to kick down and then bring it across the body. Yikes. Down again. So I'm going out and down in a diagonal, then bring it across the body. Ideally, you want to do at least 8 of these, or since we're doing both stretches. I'm not going to demonstrate all of them. I mean, this one's better if you have really limited range of motion. If you have a lot of belly fat that gets in the way, this one's easier for sure. And try it again. Try it again with the toes turned out. See what that does for you. You may get a completely different stretch. I'm feeling it like when I do this less down the side of my leg and more toward the back, which doesn't really make any sense, but it is what it is. Some of these stretches, if you don't feel them in the place that you're supposed to feel them, you're just going to feel them where you're tight, and that's okay. Often it's not just one muscle that's doing the actions, it's several. So again, the other stretch for lateral hamstring, I'm going to angle my knee in. My heel, I'm going to catch the outside of my foot. My heel is going to kick down toward the outside of my hip. I'm going to keep it kicking down and then pull it across the body. And as I do, I'm going to tilt this left knee in. So you can do that with a straight leg one too. Tilt the left knee in when you get to the stretch point. So why are we going through this full range of motion? Well, there's several reasons. One is that it's going to help warm the muscle up, which is going to help it stretch better. That's what the resistance is for. And two, sometimes the knots that are in your muscles, the magical things that happen to undo the knots actually happen as you're contracting from here through the middle. That's where the knots are breaking up. As you get to the end, you're just creating new range of motion. And yeah, sure, that's where you feel it, but it's not always going to be the answer to breaking up the adhesions in your muscle. The theory is that the sarcomeres that are bound and have adhesions, they're resting next to sarcomeres that are healthy. And as you contract, the sarcomeres grab together, and then as you stretch, they have to pull apart by a little bit, and they can start pulling out those knots in your muscles. And otherwise, if you don't get those knots out, then it's just kind of like tying a knot in a rubber band and stretching it. The knots are still there. They're just, the rest of the muscle is having to pick up the slack. So, all right, next, since we didn't do the hip flexor, I want to do the hip flexor next. And again, you can do this one on a chair, or you can do it kneeling. I prefer to do it kneeling, but you can do this one with your foot on a chair. And as you do the foot on the chair one, I'm just going to demonstrate it quickly. I'm going to imagine my legs pulling together. I've got posterior pelvic tilt. This is anterior, this is posterior. And as I do that, I'm going to shift forward into the chair. You should feel a stretch here and back. So I've got my feet pulling together, posterior tilt. Should be your hip flexor stretch. But I much prefer to do it kneeling. I just think it's a better stretch. I am scissoring my legs together, just like on the chair. Posterior tilt, shift forward, and shift back. Feel free, if you are, super flexible and you want to take this stretch a little bit farther, as you kind of, you get that warmed up feeling and you want more and you want more, feel free. If you're like a yoga person, come out here, put your hands on your thighs, pull that pelvis back into even more of a posterior tilt. Maybe even shift forward and try to touch your hands to the floor. So go as deep as you want, but I encourage you to warm up just using this resistance stretch first. But yeah, I do get a little greedy with this one sometimes. And if I kind of form into a little bit of a back bend, it can provide even more resistance. So from here, we're going to go straight into central hamstring. And this is the one that either you can put your hands on the floor, you can put your hands on a chair, or you can use the yoga blocks. I only brought one yoga block today, but you frame your foot with the yoga blocks. Pull the heel toward you, pull it toward you, and then back it up. I am pulling my heel toward me the entire time that I'm doing this stretch. So that's the resistance. It's like a hamstring curl at the gym. And then we're going to switch sides. Do the hip flexor on the other side. Again, you can do this with your foot on a chair. Just make sure everything's stable. Scissor your inner thighs together, belly in and up, shift forward and back. Try not to lean forward because you're going to lose most of the stretch if you do that. If this is bothering your knee, find more padding or stop doing it. You may want to get your knee checked out. I always have a little bit of pain on this side, but not enough for me to stop doing it because I know after I've done it, it feels better. So you'll have to make that call. Obviously, I always say if something hurts, stop doing it. So that's a good rule of thumb. But if you know this pain, you're familiar with this pain, and you know it's not going to hurt you, or your doctor's told you that it's not going to hurt you, then you're probably okay. Sometimes I think the pains we feel in our body, especially as we get older, is more of a fear of what's happening in there, than the pain itself. So again, if you are really flexible and you want to take this farther, then come down to your lunge, push the thigh, pull the belly in, or you can come into a back bend, reach down, sink deeper. However far you want to go. It's up to you. That's kind of, I think, how yoga evolved into kind of being almost like some people take it to the contortionist level, is that they just keep wanting to go deeper. Like, how far can I take this? Because it feels so good. And it should feel good. Okay, next, we're doing the central hamstring again. I'm going to pull this heel in toward me, keep pulling it in, and then back it up. So my heel is always pulling toward me, going through this stretch. And again, you can pull your chest farther forward if you want a deeper stretch. I kind of look at this one as a little bit of a warm-up for some things I may do later on. Okay, so the first two stretches we did for legs, groin and lateral hamstring, those two go together. So usually from a muscle balance perspective, if your groin is really open, that means usually your lateral line, your lateral hamstring is going to be tight. You could have the opposite. I've seen it before where people they can take their leg way, way, way across their body, but their groin's really tight. So you could be one or the other. This one is pretty self-explanatory. You really feel it. I mean, I feel the jamming in the front of my hip if I haven't done my hip flexor stretch first. So next, we're going to do medial hamstring and quad. And medial hamstring is another one where we're lying down. You could do it the same way we just did the central hamstring. So you would be with your foot out here. Instead of your foot straight, you have it out to the side, and you're going to be pulling the heel in toward you, and then keep pulling it in toward you, and back it up, lean forward. So you could do it that way. Just really put your brain into that medial hamstring. Otherwise, we're going to do it on our back. So I was just giving that option in case you're pregnant or something, because you don't want to be on your back for as long as we're doing this. If you, depending on your, the stage of your pregnancy. So medial hamstring, you're on your back. You're going to take your knee, I'm using my left knee, out to the side. So lateral hamstring, we're going across the body. Now we're going out to the side. Central hamstring was straight. We have 3 hamstrings. So medial hamstring, I'm going to make the OK sign with my fingers. I'm going to hook my heel. My heel is going to pull down toward my groin. I'm going to keep it pulling down to my groin and then open it up. And sometimes I like to take my hand and put it on my medial hamstring just so I can feel that contraction and really put my brain there, because this is what we call muscle activation. Sometimes our brain isn't really sure like what muscle is doing what. And sometimes this muscle gets a little lazy. So I like to put my hand here so I can feel it, and it also helps me to improve my neurological connection, I think, to my brain. The heel is always pulling toward the groin, and I'm also getting a huge rear shoulder stretch here as well. We're going to do a couple more. My shoulder's wearing out. I haven't done this one for a while. And then switch sides. So, OK sign with the hand. I'm going to hook the heel. The heel's going to kick down for the groin. The arm is going to move the opposite direction, just like prying this leg open. Work within your range of motion. As you can see, I'm not going straight with my leg because I'm feeling tension here. So I probably could go farther if somebody else were pushing me, but I'm feeling tension right there. So I'm not going to go any farther. And if you feel tension on the outside of the leg where the lateral hamstring is, that's okay. That just means your lateral hamstring's really tight, which is a good case for you wanting to strengthen this one, the medial hamstring, because they both kind of can do the same job. But a lot of times the lateral hamstring is just so overactive and so tight, it's going to want to do everything. And once you get this medial hamstring to start doing its job, you're not going to feel as much tension. But it may take months, so you got to keep working on it. I would say if you did those 2 stretches, if you have overactive like lateral hamstring, and you did those 2 stretches along with the balancing stretches, so we're going to do quad next because it balances the one we just did. You should start to feel, for like a month, you should start to feel some real changes in your legs and where the tension is, the chronic tension. Okay, quad. We're going to do the same lateral quad stretch we did last week. We're going to do a couple others. I'm going to take my foot out 45-degree angle, cross my right ankle over. My right ankle is pushing into my knee. The knee is pushing back. I'm going to rotate the knee in and then open it up. So as you can see, this is the exact opposite motion of the stretch we just did. So I'm going in with my leg. The stretch we just did before was going out with the leg. So they're completely the backwards of each other, which is why they go together. So there's tension between my knee and my ankle the entire time. I'm also getting a nice little glute stretch as I open up to the side. My belly, my hip is going to want to pop up as I rotate in. Just try to minimize it. And if you want more quad stretch, pull the heel in. And then we will switch sides. So right foot out to the side, 45-degree angle, at least a 90-degree bend in your knee. Push the ankle into the knee. Knee pushes into ankle, rotate in and open. And again, if you want more stretch, pull the heel in toward the hip. I'm getting a little bit of kneecap pain on this because I have a little bit of a kneecap tracking issue right now, but I know this pain, so I'm not overly concerned about it. If you are concerned about any pains that you may be having, stop what you're doing. Go get it checked out because you never know what it is. You have like a, torn meniscus or something in there. I had a friend recently that just got his knee checked out, the doctor, and he's got the patellar chondromalacia and also a torn meniscus. So we could all be, some of us are walking around with damaged meniscus. We don't even know it, Sometimes the pain does not present itself. And then when we feel pain, we're kind of like, oh no. Well, sometimes it's not anything that's going to cause any long-term damage. Sometimes it is. So it is good to get it checked out. So next, we're going to do a little quad exercise. Just a nice little quad warm-up. And this one for sure, if you've got knee pain, you might want to avoid it. But you can also do this sitting in a chair. If you sit in a chair and you have one of these bands, where I put my bands here, there. These things, you can loop around the bottom edge of the chair and then slip it around your ankle and kick out and in. It's another option if you don't want to do it this way. But I do think this is a good way to warm up your quads. So we're going to straighten up. I'm just on my knees. I'm going to belly in, tailbone under, and I'm going to start to lean back. This is my stretch. Then I'm going to come back up again. You can put your hands on your hips if that helps you to keep your tailbone tucked under. Or not. Hands out to the front, maybe a little bit less taxing on the quads. Are we having fun yet? All right. Now we're going to do the deeper quad stretch. This time I'm going to use the chair. Pull the chair toward me. But you can use the wall. You could use this. Last week I did this one up against the wall. These yoga blocks, if they're soft underneath the knee, is also really nice. If your knee's just not taking the pressure. Try that. A couple of pillows, a big bolster, anything you've got. I'm going to put my knee on block. My other foot out to the side. I'm going to reach down through the floor, flip my knee up the chair. Oops, fell right off. And rise. So I'm going to push my foot into the chair, shift forward, stretch. Keep pushing the foot into the chair. Back it up. Stretch. So back and forth. Sometimes I like to do a little back bend with this one. Get my upper body a little stretch too. Try that. Or you might not need the block at all. Just take the block and get rid of it. I found that my kneecap has gotten so used to being on the floor, it doesn't bother me as much as it used to. And sometimes when I look at little kids crawling around on the floor and I think, oh gosh, doesn't that hurt their knees? But I think their body's more resilient, for sure. But I also think that they're just used to crawling around on the floor, you know? If you want to take this a little bit farther, you're going to lean away from the leg. So away from the right leg. It's going to give you a deeper stretch. And then switch sides. This one I'm going to do at the wall so you can see what it's like at the wall. I've got my blanket. Keep in mind, the closer the blanket is to the wall, the deeper the stretch you're going to get. So if you're not very flexible, you might want to start with the blanket a little bit farther away from the wall. I'm going to flip my foot up the wall. Take the other foot out in front. Push into the wall to shift forward. Keep pushing to the wall to back it up. You should get a stretch both ways. I'm actually counting, so we're at 9. And these last few, I'm going to lean. So I'm going to take my arm up and over to the right and stretch it over as I back up. Okay, next we're going to hit calves. And, you can do this calf stretch with the chair. I know some people just really don't like downward dog at all. So if you want to, you can do it with the chair. But I would say if you do it with the chair, you're going to need something underneath your toes. So roll the mat up. Stand on it. Reach for the chair. And then you can do your shift forward and shift back. So I'm just shifting my weight forward, and as I shift back, I'm going to lower my heels and try to lift my toes. You might not need anything underneath your toes if you're really tight. That's totally up to you. Downward dog version. I'm going to start with my hands and knees. Tuck my toes under, lift up and back. Downward dog, lift the heels, shift forward, shift back, slowly lower the heels. This is a chest stretch and a calf stretch, so don't forget that. As I shift back, I'm going to try to tilt my tailbone up, press my heels down, and lift my toes, and press my chest toward my thighs. So this should give you More stretch if you're not feeling anything. Sometimes, and I think I've demonstrated, because I get a little greedy with some of these stretches, as um, I'm coming back into the stretch, I like to lift one leg behind me and then shift forward. You can alternate legs. So as you come back into the stretch, lift the opposite leg. And you're really going to feel a much deeper stretch in the calf. You can try angling your heels, so bring the heel kind of out to the side. See what that does for you. Or, you can bring the heel in. See what that does for you. That's a really nice stretch for me. It just hits different parts of the calf. So you could do the same thing with your feet together. In and out. All right. And next, we're going to move on to the hips, the abductor. So we're going to stand up for this one. I'm going to cross my ankle over the thigh, press the ankle into the thigh. For this one, stick your butt out behind you. Keep pressing the ankle into the thigh. Come on down until you feel a stretch. Keep pushing the ankle into the thigh to rise back up again. I'm really tight here today, so I might have to do another stretch for this. Imagine that. I did glutes at the gym the other day. So yesterday, actually. So my glutes are tight. This is good. That means they worked. And then switch sides. So ankle crosses over. I'm just hanging onto the wall because I can. Press the ankle, and I want it to be more about the stretch than the balance. But if you're really wanting to challenge yourself with balance, then don't hang on to anything. Press the ankle into the thigh, stick your butt out behind you, come down into your figure four, and rise back up. All right. While we're up here, we're going to do a little bit of an upper body stretch. So this one, you're going to stand near a wall and take one arm behind you. So I've got my right arm behind me. I'm going to step forward with my right leg. Push my hand into the wall and start to turn away from the wall, and then pull back toward the wall. If you've got wall space, which I don't really, I'm going to have to move forward a little bit because because all these paintings in the way. I like to do this one in diagonal. Same thing, you're going to press the arm into the wall and then turn away and then pull back. And if you want to get into your forearms, it's a really easy way to do it. You're going to tilt your hand so that the pinky's on the wall and press the hand into the wall and then pull the fingertips back toward the forearm. That should get into the inside of your triceps or golfer's elbow. And then for the other, turn your palm upside down, press the back of your palm into the wall and turn and make a fist. So those are the two options. We're going to do the other side. So I've got my hand behind me. I'm stepping forward with my left foot. I'm going to press my left hand into the wall, turn away from it, and then back again. This is the one, last week I did this one on the floor. So you can roll in and out of it, but some people, I've had people in class that say this, it's too much pressure on my boobs, or they're pregnant, they can't do it. This is another way to do it. So you actually may prefer this over the floor. And then we'll try taking the arm up in a diagonal. That's a stretch. Yeah, big stretch. Again, if you want to take this into the forearm, rotate your hand so that the thumb is up, the pinky is at the wall, press, rotate, and then bring your fingers back toward the forearm. And that should be a huge stretch for the inside of your forearm. And then the opposite, to catch the supinators outside, press the back of the hand, rotate, make a fist. So if you have a tennis elbow, try this out. See if it gets rid of it, or at least temporarily. And if it does, then you just need to do it more, right? Okay, next, we're going to do adductors. So obviously adductors and abductors go together. Last week, I did the splits one. This week, we're just going to do a leaning from side to side and get a little lat action in there. And this is another one we're going to be on the knees. So you need the padding. Go get it. Foot out to the side. You're going to press the inside of the foot into the mat. Lean. And you can make this into a lat stretch by pressing the elbow out, holding it steady. I feel like this one for the inner thigh, it's more about the lat for me. It's more what I feel than the inner thigh. So pick and choose which inner thigh resistance stretch you want to do. If you want to do the one lying on your back, do the one lying on your back with your feet moving in and pressing them open. Totally up to you. And the great thing about doing it the other way on your back, which I will demonstrate, but I'm going to start doing this first. Kick the elbow out, catch it, lean to the side, and back up again. So if you're keen on doing this one, keep doing this one, but the one that I feel is the more effective is the one on the back, where you're opening your legs, pushing open, and then bringing the heels towards each other. But it's really up to you, and it's just mostly for me, what I feel is I have just greater range of motion here, so I can tax the muscles a little bit more. My inner thighs tend to be a little bit lazy and don't want to do their fair share because I I just don't use them enough, I think. So I really want to wear these puppies out so that my hips aren't so tight all the time, because these balance each other. If your inner thighs are really tight, usually you do not have such tightness in the hips. Whereas if you're super open in your inner thigh, guess what's shortening? Yeah, it's your hips. So that's what's going on there. All right. I'm going to do another upper body stretch. I don't really have time to do it, but I'm going to do it anyway. I might go over by a bit. And so I'm going to take this yoga block. I'm going to sit it underneath me. You might need two. I'm going to lean up against this chair, and I'm going to lift my hips and grab the back of the chair. And I may want to take my arms through a little bit farther. Yeah. And then I'm going to slowly lower my hips toward the ground. So I'm pulling with my arms. Make sure your chair doesn't tip over like mine is. And I keep pulling and lower the hips down. If you want to get rid of the block, see if you can come down here a little bit more. This is a great way to open up your thorax. Sometimes the thoracic spine, well, for most of us, we start rounding in the upper back as we get older. And the problem with that is it can cause a lot of stress on your neck, and also the more forward head and rounded you are, you're not getting as much oxygen. So it's good to try to work toward anything that can get you out of that curved upper back kyphosis. All right, we're going to end up with pigeon today because we've already stretched your hips out a little bit. You should be ready for it. So for pigeon, we're going to start in downward dog. And lift your right leg up. And then bring your right knee through. Sit down. Some of you may be sitting like this. That is fine. Some of you may be sitting like this. That is fine. We're going to do a little pulse. Bring the knees towards each other and back. So if you're out here, it's going to look more like this. Okay? And I feel pretty loose here. Usually when I get into pigeon, I need to do that a couple times just to warm the muscles up. Today I'm going to take this into a little bit different stretch. So I'm going to put my strap around my foot and then take my strap here. You can do a resistance stretch here for your quad. Walk your hands up and see how close you can get your head. Okay? So this is a way to work into king pigeon. If you're up for that type of thing. If not, don't worry about it. But this is also kind of a nice resistance stretch for the quad. You just push and pull. I'm stretching my chest. I'm stretching my quad. You can also do this one with one of those giant elastic bands. That's good too. But yeah, pretty much everything that we did today should be working towards that. The lower body. And then we'll swap sides. So I'm in pigeon again. I'm going to pull. And again, I feel pretty open, so I don't really feel like I need to do much pulsing. Some of you may be here, and that's okay. You can always pull your quad back like this. It's a good quad stretch. Push and pull. Or loop your foot. Try coming into your pigeon. Just, try some push-pulls. With all the quad stretching and the hip stretching that we just did, you should feel pretty open. Yeah, you may be able to hook your toe. You never know. Okay, that's it for today. Please leave, any questions or comments that you have, and I'll be more than happy to try to answer them. If there's something that you'd like me to try to stretch next week or foam roll or whatever, let me know. Until then, happy stretching, and I will see you next week.